Hey Max, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing good. Uh, gonna
You look
go
tired
to a
like me.
tonight. Well, I just kind of woke up, but I'm ready to go have fun tonight. So,
Oh, are we going? Are we doing? Are we gonna sit around bonfires and try to fix the world tonight?
no,
Like,
my friend has her birthday, so we're going to a bar and gonna have some fun.
very nice, very nice. Well, anyway, this is episode number 147. We have a race to talk about. I think we should drop that intro and get on with it. What about you?
Yeah, let's do it.
To the No Name RC podcast with your host tonight, Keenan White, aka Lefty the Great, and if you are unlucky, the Finnish village idiot, JQ. This is the RC podcast with no name but plenty of content. So sit back, relax, and get ready for some serious bench racing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Nitro's the glory, but E-buggy pays the bills. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 147 of the No Name RC podcast. 308 from 150. Got my boy Max Mort over there. You know what, Max? Next year, I'm gonna get your own intro. We're gonna get an intro
Yeah,
just for you. Because it looks like you're gonna be a permanent fixture of this. You're not gonna be the village affiliated. You're gonna be Arrogant Max, because that's your new name, Arrogant Max.
yeah. I hope people don't take it too seriously. They get what's behind it.
Yeah,
And
Max has a
actually
new.
a really nice guy. It's just I have a low tolerance for stupidity.
Embrace it, embrace it. He even has his own. He even has his own channel and category on the new NNRC Discord called Ask
Yeah,
Arrogant Max. You gotta embrace it, man. I don't, just because you are
yeah,
arrogant, but in a good way.
yeah,
But also you can, like we've had our run-ins like where I've wanted to just smash you into bits, but you're still my buddy. It's like big brother, little brother. You know what, man? We're just having a quick podcast this week to talk about the U.S. Open. So we're just say our thank yous and all that stuff, and we're gonna get right into it. So I just want to say shout out and say thank you to all of the NNRC squad around the world. We guys can't do it without you. I know episode number 146 is late, and as I'm recording this, I'm still not finished because I'm waiting for JQ, right? I'm still waiting to finish 20 minutes of the podcast. And I'm waiting. This is episode 146 has officially turned into the longest drawn out podcast. Not long as in time, but to do. I've been trying to do it for 5 days. But that's what happens when JQ starts traveling. So,
yeah. He has
but it's a
reached
good
new levels.
I know, but it's good. It's good, and it's all about Buggy Land. So check that out. If you're just watching this, and actually the guest on there is Craig Drescher, and it was a great talk with him. A lot of respect for him, Max. He spoke highly of you as well, so that's good. And he likes your new nickname. So shout out to the NNRC squad. We greatly appreciate it, and shout out to the patrons of the NNRC. We can't do it without you guys. If you wish to be a patron of the podcast, that money goes to helping us do things like, we're gonna do like I'm gonna do a Patreon giveaway for Christmas, and I take some of that money and I put it back and get stuff so we guys can give something away for Christmas for the support that you've done, and just helps me get if I need new equipment or anything like that. It helps me do it. So if you wish to be a patron, please in the written description of this podcast, there's a link for that. Also, remember everybody, we have sponsors, and supporting, sharing the sponsors some love shows the podcast some love. So please, if you can, show these awesome companies some love, and they are Mayako. I know everybody's waiting for it. I actually think one of the reasons why JQ was late or missed me yesterday of this was because of, I think he might actually have. I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna leave it at that. Anyway, shout out to Mayako. Shout out to Beach RC, longtime supporter of the podcast. Love Brent, Lucas, and all those guys. TNR Fuels, High Tech RCD, Techno RC, Lugs Racing Tires, JQ Racing or JQ Scale Motorsports as it's now called, Sun City RC Raceway. We're going to talk about them a lot. they had the U.S. Open this past weekend. Donathan RC products. Get your charge cables from him. He has Donathan RC. Awesome charge cables. We have a coupon code for that. You can check it out in the written description of this podcast. Shout out to Racecraft USA. We also have a code for them where you can save some money on one of their awesome command modules and all their products. Don't forget Lugs RC. We also have a coupon code for that. Shout out to Papa Willie's Traction Tonic, longtime supporter of the podcast. I see Scooter's got something new coming out. That's great. And we have a coupon code for that, so check that out. And House of RC, of course, shout out to them. And their awesome app. And of course, always a big supporter of the podcast is RCGP. I need to ask David when episode 4 is coming, because November will be here shortly. The end of the year will be here. So shout out to them. And a quick shout out I want to say to So app. I think you guys should get on this. It's really good. Check it out. And yeah, interesting. We opened up the NNRC Discord this week. I'm still learning it. The Barbarian has done a good job. Thank you to Rowan for setting that up. If you guys do want to join the NNRC Discord, we're trying to create a small little community. It's just fun, you know. It's not all RC on there. So, and if you have questions for the podcast or topics, or you know, want to maybe get some inside information, like we do in the Patreon side, which is growing, then you can become a patron and check that side, because there's a patron-only part of it as well. But I'm enjoying it. Discord is an awesome tool. I wish I would have paid attention maybe 2 years ago when my buddy Joseph Mador was telling me about it, and he was trying to show it to me as a VRC user. And I just, you know me, like technology sometimes it takes a long time to hammer it in my brain. And then Rowan was like, we got to do it. And we had it for almost a year now, and we finally activated it. So check it out. It's really cool. And Max is in there, and he's geeking out on there. And
I mean, if the sort of plan right now is just to get people in there, get people talking, get people using it. And if there's like a channel, like let's say some people want to talk about whatever they want to talk about, we can add channels. And like we already had added a lot of channels, and if they get used a lot, they'll stay. If like no channels get any traffic, we'll just like get rid of some. So yeah, if you wanna, like, if you know your friends and you want to talk about something in RC that doesn't have a channel yet, you can like say to me or Rowan, and we can add a channel for that. So yeah,
that'd be awesome.
But yeah, go out there and sign up for it. It's like you just make an account and you just click the link that's on the NNRC Facebook, and that way you join the server.
Yeah, Rowan's is into it. He's done a good job with it. I want to thank the Barbarian for all his hard work. And of course you, Max, for being involved in it. You guys are the young guys. You're all into that tech stuff. You know, I learned that later. Quick shout out before we go on. I want to shout out first. I want to say happy birthday to a good friend of mine, young man. I have a lot. I really like this young man. I think he went 19. He's in university. And he's just, you know, he's kind of starting his journey just like you. I want to shout out to Ashton Abdul. It was his birthday this last week. And really just one of the young men that I've met in RC in my last few years that I really, really like him. Really nice, very smart. And I just like him. And happy birthday to him. I feel like he's my nephew at sometimes. And happy birthday to him. And on some sad news for our Canadian RC family up in Vancouver, they lost a stalwart in their community today or yesterday. I want to shout out to Cameron Wong of Go Hobbies, I believe they're called, in Vancouver. He passed away. He owned his older hobby shop up there in the area, and I know a lot, like Chuck, a lot of the Vancouver guys up there. He was like a stalwart, and it's sad to see. You know, it's sad to see when anybody in our RC family passes away. So our condolences go to the British Columbia RC community and Mr. Wong's family, and hopefully this hobby shop can live on through you guys. All right, Max. So not a full podcast this week. Just us doing a quick recap on the U.S. Open, which took place this past weekend at the beautiful Sun City RC Raceway. Awesome facility. It was. I like to consider this a medium-sized race. I mean, in terms of entries, even though we don't count, I say we don't count entries as making a good race. It is not a race that attracts. It's not a race meant for. Excuse me. Sorry, it's not a race meant for extremely high entries like many other races that we have in America. It's run in IFMAR style format, which I really enjoy, and they actually have some payouts and an overall champion. So it doesn't really get there's big interest, but it gets. I think they got enough people to be a top 25 racer. I mean, so it's a good
Yeah,
race.
it
We're gonna
should be
talk.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're gonna talk about it real quick. But Max wanted to bring up something. Oh no, actually, let's catch up with you, man. What have you been up to besides school? How's university life going for you?
Well, pretty much only school. Hung out with my friends obviously and all that, but not much in RC terms. I've been following racing obviously and doing the podcast, but apart from that, just counting mathematics and physics. So that's been my
Oh,
sort of
yeah, I
last
don't
few
even
weeks
like
or
that
whatever.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I hate math and physics. I mean, I can understand it, but yeah, that was just not my strong points in school, as you can tell. But I guess when you
Did
want to
you
be an
have
engineer,
strong points in school?
yeah, history, very strong in
Oh, really?
history.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
that was because I really enjoy that. But anything else, it wasn't probably yeah, that's history. Yeah, that's what I really enjoyed. Um, storytelling. That's why I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. But hey, that's what you got to do if you want to be an engineer. Math, physics. That's all shit you need. So yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
get.
exactly.
Yeah, her is just getting really wild there, Max. Really wild.
Yeah, I'm I'm going full Jesus. That's been my goal now. So
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what your buddy Hyperfox 2.1 has to say about this on Instagram. He asked a question in last week's podcast and he brought up your name asking about JQ. He calls you loudmouth Max.
well,
I don't
that's
know
pretty
who that
much
guy
just
is.
arrogant Max, but
Yeah,
different
you
words.
got quite a few nicknames, but I don't know who that dude is. But he asked some
Yeah,
funny questions and he talks some shit about you. But that's fine. That's all
yeah,
part
it's
of
all good.
having the fun.
Yeah,
Um, Nothing much for me, man. I'm just grinding away. We're here coming up on 3 year. I think in November. I thought it was October, but it's actually November. I can't remember the exact date that we released our first podcast 3 years ago. So just like yeah, kind of in that. Lots of silly season stuff getting thrown at me. Everybody's that's type of year is starting to kick up. So probably gonna get busy. I'm starting to hear a lot of things. So it's gonna be. I think we're gonna see a lot of moves this year. I think we're gonna
yeah.
see.
I'd imagine we will, and obviously, I think something that will happen is team will sort of prioritize. Almost all brands have raised prices due to increase like manufacturing cost and that in China, due to like COVID and all.
Yep.
So I think like teams will need to start cutting budgets and see what they can do, and obviously that means for an exciting silly season.
I mean, like I said, I'm already
And
like
it's
one
gonna
of
be
the biggest.
Worlds year next year. It's gonna
Yes.
be Worlds finally. So I think I think next year's I hope at least that next year's gonna be really good for racing in RC. And RCGP most likely will be back, all that
Yep.
stuff. So next year it could be one of the best years for RC or one of the worst. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
I
something
mean,
will happen, that's for sure.
yes. As of now, talking to David, RCGP is a go. I think they're just working out the final details on everything.
Yeah.
Uh, Great that we're gonna be going to Radovan. I like. I think there's a possibility I might be going Europe 3 times next year. So I'm excited. Like, just excited about
Yeah.
that. Never been to Europe, only been to England, which is was part of Europe. Is England
Yeah.
still
Oh,
considered part of
it's still
Europe?
part of Europe, not just the EU.
Yeah, not part of Brexit. Oh, not part of the EU. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about DNC, dude. I am, even though there's a lot more racing in
Hmm.
between that. I'm just excited because after watching Buggyland, well, not watching, but after the Buggyland race and seeing like the pace that those guys are at, and then talking to Joseph about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I think," he says, like, "Yeah, it's going to be on at DNC pretty much." I
Yeah.
think I just can't wait because we haven't had that in 2 years, and
Yeah, that's
fingers
gonna be sort
crossed.
of like the world's preview.
Yep.
So we get like a taste of it, and then like it's gonna all be sort of end up at Radovan and see who's the boss. So that's gonna be good, and it's good because like the DNC is American turf, and then Radovan is more European turf.
Hmm.
Obviously, like Spanish drivers will be strong, like Canas and Robert, but apart from that, it's gonna be all to play for, really.
I agree with you. Max, before we go on to talking about some items that you wanted to talk about, we're going to pay some bills. And as you guys know, this podcast is brought to you by Lugs Racing Tires. Lugs Racing has over 55 years of combined RC experience. They have been testing treads, wheels, and rubber for performance. They have their Lugs Econ tires, which are developed with racing budgets in mind. High quality with lower costs means savings that can be passed on to you, the racer. They have their premium line of tires, the TQs and Protos, and they are made using Lugs custom molds and proprietary rubber compound. You can get Lugs tires. They are available in medium, soft, super soft, mega soft, and now long wear. You can go to www.lugsracing.com, use the promo code NNRC Lugs in all caps, and you'll save, I think it's 25 or 30% off order, maybe less than that. I'm not sure. But yeah, check them out. Thank you to Lugs for being on the podcast. I was talking to those guys the other day, Bryce Beaver and those guys, and Nibs, trying to get Nib on her to talk about tire manufacturing. So we'll see if he comes on her and talks about it. Yeah, man. So you wanted to touch on something real quick. We don't have, like, we're not doing a structured podcast, no news and all that type of stuff, but something that we both kind of saw last night, like, blew my freaking mind. Like, honestly, blew my mind. And it actually took the guy showing a video of this to explain it to me what it was, because I knew what it was, but I just couldn't picture it in my brain, which usually happens to me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a visual guy. I have to see things work in order to understand how it works. I'm not like, you know, Mr. JQ and UMax. So this is from
Okay, yeah,
Phil
you have video.
Matthews.
That's great.
Well, this I can bring up the video.
Yeah,
too.
this is actually, for everyone watching, he's actually a great guy at explaining a lot of stuff. I think he's more focused in pan cars and on road, but he's actually really he respects details and stuff. So a big shout out to him.
Phil Matthews, guys, up in Quebec. I think he's up in Canada. I'm not.
Somewhere
I believe he's in
Canada,
Quebec.
Canada.
Yeah, he's in Quebec, I believe. Yeah, known Phil for a few years actually. But yeah, look at this, dude. It blew my mind. I was like, what? Because I thought this is what I thought it was. I thought it was a trigger that went the opposite, like horizontally and not vertically.
Yeah.
And wow, for me, dude, this is what, honestly, for me as a person, I would, like, with my arm, with my hand, the way it is and stuff like that. I had to readjust my driving style when I learned how to drive again after my accident, and I have to coast and range into a lot of corners because I can't get my throttle finger back to brake. This is obviously not my throttle finger, but because the way the vertical thing is, like, I would literally drive with the tip of my finger because I could only get so much back on brake, but this eliminates that. Like, now I can just, like, curl like that. It's so much easier. Wow, this blew my. I've never seen this, like, but this brings up some good stuff. We're starting to see people looking in other directions for innovation and making RC better and more comfortable for people.
And KO has actually been pretty good with, like, innovation. They've tried a lot of different stuff. They sort of went to the wrong direction, like, at some point when Sandva sort of had more presence in the industry. But like, KO has actually been pretty good with innovation, and this is nice to see something new. Can you actually play the video for a bit so we can?
Yeah, let me find it. Hold on. But, like, when I start looking at stuff like this, I start thinking about. Hold on. Can you see that?
No, it's not.
As
Okay,
opposed to the normal vertical.
Let me go back to her.
So the principle of the LDT throttle, as you can see, it moves in this direction as opposed to the normal vertical that we're looking for. And the whole idea is that, if I can put my wrist is upside down, so I might not do a good job. But the idea is that you pull in the normal function. That's neutral. But to brake, I don't have to take my finger off the throttle to reach and grab. And I'm not pushing with my nail. So long as I keep the pad of my finger on, that's neutral, brake, throttle. So the idea is that I don't have it fully set up yet. It comes with little pads to put on here so you get more traction because the plastic's a little slick. But I'm going to keep working on getting that set up, and that's the function.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing to me. Amazing.
Yeah. And one thing actually that's good about this is the fact that you could pretty much switch the whole lever system and like to fit your finger. So you could like develop like different types of those levers or sort of place you put your finger in. So
Mhm.
you can have like 5 different ones and you can try which one fits you, or you can 3D print the one that fits you. And yeah, so this is actually pretty good. I still
Really?
want to show you like my radio, which is like the regular like Sandva radio.
Mhm.
So I've actually 3D printed this part, and I 3D printed like 10 different ones, and then just tried which fit my finger. So now like, and it's like, I don't know if you can see it from here, but it's sort of like curved on that
Mhm.
brake side. So
Yes.
now usually what I had to do is, this was always, the gap was slightly too big for my finger because I have pretty small fingers.
Right.
So what I always had to do is when I went throttle, I would have to push up instead of like, I had to push up
Uh,
instead of pushing forward. So now when I'm with this one that fits my finger, I can only keep my finger in there and I just push forward and back. And because it's curved, it doesn't sort of grip my finger too much, and it gives just enough room for my finger to move, but it's still tight enough that it doesn't have any uh, sort of play in between. So that's one thing that I did this year when I got my 3D printer. And this actually is a huge deal. Like the feel you get with your radio is actually a bigger deal than people understand. And oftentimes when I drive other people's cars, it's like, holy shit, how do people drive like this? And I've also 3D printed the steering wheel, which is
mm,
a bigger size because I like a
mm,
bigger wheel, and you have more feel with this. So it's actually a huge difference. Like to drive a car that doesn't have the exact throttle or steering feel is so much more difficult if you don't have the feel in your radio either. When your radio
mhm,
feels good, you can sort of fix a lot of the issues you do with a lot of the issues that the car might have. So this actually makes your job so much easier. And like I think this is one of the biggest gains I made in the last year. Just like having the bigger steering wheel, I get more. It's actually quite a lot bigger. Like
mhm,
I can like, my hand is like almost open when I fit to it, and I have so much more range with it. And
mm.
same with the throttle. Now that I don't have to lift my finger or whatever, I just put it in there and it's there, and it's like it fits. It's made for my finger. So the stuff like that is actually really important. And for me, I'm fine with what I'm with now. I don't really need the system that KO has done. But for a lot of people, their finger or their hand just doesn't fit to a regular radio, and you might want to need that one. Also, one thing I want to point out is, one thing I always hated about Sandva is the fact that the throttle is actually quite short. Like the brake is almost as long as the throttle.
Mhm.
And with the old KO radios, the throttle was like really, really long. So you have a lot better throttle control. You can like do this, like squeeze the throttle, and you do
Mm.
like smaller increments at a time. So you can be much smoother on the throttle, and you have more control. And that's one thing I wish Sandva did to their radio, just make the throttle lever a lot longer. Because I can like, it's not like I couldn't squeeze more from this. I could easily squeeze more. It's just that it's here. So it's not a range issue for me, but the issue
Mhm.
is like now every time I do a little tap, it's like it's slightly too much always. Obviously, I've gotten
Right.
used to it over time, but I would wish they would change it to have a longer pull, so you could do those really small taps and have more control in the throttle as well.
It's funny you say that because Tebo, remember Tebo ran KO for forever,
Hmm.
and then at the
Yeah.
beginning of this year he was running, I believe,
Yeah, and
Sanwa.
I think I talked about this as well in the podcast when he switched. I think you brought it up that Tebow
Yeah.
switched back to KO, and I said I'm pretty sure it's exactly this. The throttle is so much longer in the KO
Hmm.
radios.
Because the way he drives is because I do weird things and I listen to throttle input, when these guys drive, and you can literally hear the minute, like I can see his finger just minutely moving that little, like, you know,
Yeah.
not disturbing the
And
car, but getting that
and
traction.
that's also one of the reasons why he was so strong at Neo, because Neo is notorious for being very slippery, but it's
Mhm.
still so smooth. So you really can't have any tire slip, and you need to maximize the grip you get on the tires. And almost all the time, people are running like very low thread tires. So every time you slip, you lose a lot of drive. So the fact
Mm.
that Tebo has that really sensitive throttle finger and has that like feel with the KO radio that he has and developed for himself, that's a huge gain for him. Drivers
Yes.
like, let's say, I would say Ronnefolk, uh, I would even say Mayfield. Those guys, they don't have those fine throttle inputs. They're much more aggressive on the throttle, but they pick lines before they go into a corner and they maintain speed that way. Whereas Tebo drives very sort of slow into corners and very sort of calm, and he maximizes the drive out of the corners. And Ongaro is a lot of the times the same way. He drives a very slippy car, and if you listen or look at the videos that JQ posted on RCMX a few years back of Ongaro's throttle inputs, it's actually crazy how much he does with that. And it's not a coincidence that Tebo and Ongaro have won at Neo, to me at
Hmm.
least.
Yeah. Wow. Great analysis, Max. Great.
Yeah.
Um, I just wanted to touch on a little bit on radio before we go on to other thing, but this is the type of stuff that's been overlooked for so long in our industry, and now with everything now becoming ergonomic and maximizing, like now that's
Mhm.
obviously as we learn more in life and how to maximize comfort and comfort. The more comfortable you are, the better you should be. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think we're gonna see a lot more of these like going from just like that. Like, see how you made those adjustments to your radio. Well, there's other radio, like, all right, I'm gonna, like, for instance, I wanted to get, people's gonna laugh at me maybe, but I wanted to get the Fly Sky Noble 4, which is their high end radio for at a price of like $200, right? But
Yeah.
the good thing about this is, like, you can, it's like you can, to make it left hand or right hand, you just touch a button and it switches over like that.
Yeah.
You can have the wheel or anywhere you want, stuff like that. And I think they just released another one. But it's innovations like this, little things like this that we don't even put to mind, because a lot of people don't even realize
Hmm.
that their radio, like, radios wear out too. People don't realize that you can wear out a radio. Like, you might buy, oh, I bought this radio, it only got so much hours on it. But radios take abuse, and radios get to a point where
Yeah.
they lose their center and they're not good, and not every radio is equal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, um, I think it's one of the most overlooked things in RC. And now with like KO's always done things like this, but
Yeah.
I think I think we might even get to the point where you get like tensioners and all that type of stuff involved. Like, the sky's the limit with this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? But this
Yeah.
is where we're going to see technology and things and stuff like this improve. And everybody thinks cars and chassis and this, but it's little things like
Yeah.
this. And once you, like, next thing you know, I can see people like, well, I set my radio up personally for me and anti-weight this, and I adjust the spring tensioners to this, and it's just something else for us to geek out on. But it's not geeking out, because then you find exactly, like, look at you, like, look at what you've done for your radio to make it
Hmm.
comfortable for you.
Yeah. And
So,
like you can geek out a lot and stuff on the radio that doesn't really help you. You can put a weight thing or whatever. And sometimes the weight thing actually helps. With the M17, for example, it's for me it's very like top heavy because it's so light altogether.
mhm,
So like weight can be a thing, and or some aluminum like the steering or whatever. But I think what you need to really maximize is the feel you get. So like, and to me it's like the smaller increments the better. So the more I turn, like, it allows me to make more mistakes. The radio allows me to make mistakes when I'm turning or pulling the throttle when you have smaller increments. So it just makes my job easier. And because the thing is, in 10 scale you might get away with it, it's 5 minutes, you might make like 5 mistakes the whole main, like minor ones. But when it's
mhm.
45 minutes, you get tired, you lose focus or whatever, and that's why you make those mistakes. And anything you can do to minimize the possibility of those mistakes happening, and on track, instead of just being on the wheel and your car doesn't react too much to it, that's better. You're going to make less mistakes, you're going to get more speed. And in the end it's going to be better, even though it might not change anything in the 5 minutes. In the 45 it must do.
I agree with you. All right. Let us know what you guys think about radios. Are we onto something here? Do you think that's where we're gonna see some more innovation? Do you think it's important? I do. Max does. Little things like that are constantly overlooked. All right, Max. We're gonna go on and talk about the U.S. Open, because we actually got to watch it and enjoy it. And it was held at the beautiful Sun City RC race facility. So let's pay some homage to them.
Sun City RC Raceway, the home of El Paso's world-famous motocross-inspired 8-scale off-road track. The Showers family has over 20 years' experience creating one of the premier tracks in the USA. Their world-class facility has everything: handicap accessibility, covered beds, skate starts, space for parking RVs, trailers, and lights for night racing. Follow SCRC on Facebook under Sun City RC Raceway for updates, upcoming races, or host your own race.
Yes, thank you to the Showers family, Joey, Christian, and Corbin, for their continued support of the podcast. A really great family that loves RC. They do this for the love of RC. They have created, I think, one of the best facilities in America. And hopefully we get to go there next March. Hopefully it sounds like RCGP might there. I'm not promising anything, but it sounds like it's going to be there. All right, so we had the U.S. Open this past weekend. It's a race put on by Tim Lime. Now, the funny thing is, I actually had recorded a promo for this with Tim Lime last week, but because we didn't get the other podcast done in time, I can't even include it in the podcast, the other podcast. Yeah. So thank you, JQ, once again. But yeah, he's put this on for 6 or 7 years. He first did it, I think, at like Nitro Farm and stuff back in the day, and now it's moved to the Showers facility for, I believe, the last 3 years. This race, like I said, it's not one of the big entry races because it doesn't have sportsmen and open and all that stuff. They race IFMAR style. They race one class of Truggy, one class of E-buggy. You know, it's how racing used to be. And not everybody's into that. In fact, I saw some people complaining about it. Oh, that's why I don't go, because I don't have a chance of winning and stuff like that. And that's why I was telling you, like, it's not about runtime. It's about winning those trophies. But to each their own. I get it. There's in RC.
Yeah.
There's.
By the way,
yes.
By the way, now that you mentioned this, I had a perfect rant in the Patreon section of the Discord. So if you want to find out what I think about people who say like that, go read it out there.
Oh yeah. But you have to become a patron. So good.
Yeah,
one.
Exactly.
But you know, there's room for both these type of races. I like IFMAR style. We probably don't have enough of this in RC, so I like it smaller. The race is meant to be more laid back. Like Tim says, it's a party and a race breaks out, and that's how they kind of treat it. Mm-hmm. But there was money on the line. Tebo goes to this race. Tessman came down from Canada, which I was happy to see. You know, because we didn't see, like, you know, we give Tessman a lot of shit, but he's come around at the end of this year, and we're gonna talk more about that. And he was absolutely flying this weekend. And yeah, we just gotta talk about it. And you know what? I have to shout out and say, like, shout out to the Showers family and the New Mexico, like that area, New Mexico, Texas, El Paso, that area of RC people. They support each other. They have fun, and sometimes New Mexico doesn't get the love that they deserve. They do RC there, and they enjoy it. And I have to shout out one thing before we go on any further, and I have to give him credit. I'm gonna give some credit to Matt Olson. That dude,
yeah,
he works so. I don't know how he does it, right? That guy's super busy. Now, when he first started doing the media thing, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, meh, you know, it was like, yeah, you know, he was learning. But I watched him over the last year, or like 2 years that has been doing this, like steady. And dude, this guy does this on his own, and he's getting so much. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not perfect it's not like top quality RC racing TV. It's not top quality live RC, but it ain't far from it. For one person, he does a damn good job.
He does a good job. One criticism I will give to him is I really enjoy when, like, because I think Matt was commentating some stuff. He said like, oh, Tessman and Rivkin on camera and stuff like that. I think it's better to try and commentate the whole main instead of having the announcer in the back, because the announcer a lot of times isn't following what you're following on camera.
Hmm.
And one guy who's actually, in my opinion, the best in the world at doing this by himself is InfoRC,
Yes,
Miguel.
yes,
He's amazing. He does commentary with like, he does obviously in Spanish, but he does commentary from the start of the main to the end of the main. He follows all the battles. He keeps up with the times. He pans the camera to the lap times once in a while. He does this. I think he even did before he did this on his phone, and he did like the lives. I mean, he did this on
yes.
his phone, and he just filmed like the scoreboard at sometimes, and he gives like every 1 or 2 minutes gives English updates, like, hey, who's
Yep.
the top three, what's the battle going on. So he's one of the guys to, if you're Matt Olsen, you definitely need to look at what he's doing, because he's doing a great job. Obviously, Miguel's been doing the videos for a long time. He's been doing the InfoRC. He covers all the Spanish races and the mains, and he used to do it so that if he would film the main and commentate on it afterwards and then
Yes.
release it, like let's say Monday, Tuesday. But he's recently started to do Facebook lives about the races, and he's really freaking good.
Yeah.
So yeah, for
When
Matt
I think
Olsen,
of
like
him,
if you want to learn, like, look at this guy. He's good.
well, Matt's just he's yeah. I was kind of
Yeah,
comparing them. I think he's like
yeah. Matt's
the
starting
Info
out
RC
though, so
version,
I give him
right?
the slack. So
But the
yeah,
guy's just, and also, but he's just so like Dennis doing the mod things, and then some of these races like the fifth scale races he's racing, but
yeah,
but what he's also doing is he's getting now he's doing a lot, he's doing the drag race and he's anything, so that's
hmm,
great for him because
yeah,
it's great for us because we had Buggyland and unfortunately we didn't have any coverage. Like we had,
yeah.
obviously we had Circus RC, but that's not
Yeah,
Chris's thing.
Chris is much better with photos and like online coverage.
Yeah.
I think because like as I said about Miguel, like that the videotaping of the finals has been his thing forever. Like
Hmm.
he knows what to do with the camera, he knows which battles to follow, and he knows how to commentate on it and all that. With Chris, he's more focused, has always been more focused on being like taking pictures and
Hmm.
sort of writing his on his website. Like the live streaming is much newer to him, so I like that's a different thing in a sense. But
I
for
would
Matt,
agree.
I think he has a good lane here to try and do what Miguel does in Spain, but in America.
Yeah, and also he was on BattleBots. He filmed
Oh
battle,
yeah,
like he did a season of BattleBots. He announced it yesterday. So I
okay,
gotta give this dude credit. Like he's doing that. He's busy. Like, and then he's like, yeah, I'm off to this
yeah,
race, and he's doing 10 scale, all this stuff. So congratulations to him, man. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had he like this guy can go to PNB any of these races and do a good job. If he had, I'm sure he has some people that help him as well once he gets to the track,
yeah,
but he still does a lot of this himself. So I have to give him. I tell him, I say, dude, thank you. Like, you know, he does better coverage than we've seen in some of these races this year. Like, you know what I mean? Let's be straight up. Like, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
That
He
got
did pretty good.
bigger budgets and all that stuff. So congratulations to him. We got to watch it. I think we should talk about the track first because I know a lot of people didn't
Yeah,
like it.
yeah.
I
And that was like the
I
biggest talking point, really.
Yes, but I saw a lot of I saw a lot of people. It's so dusty. Even you said it was dusty. Let me just explain
Yeah,
something to you. This track it's deserty sand, like it's really fine, powdery. It's almost like the sand at it's almost like the stuff at Silver State. It is dusty. Like I'm
yeah,
not gonna tell you, but it was they gotta understand it was windy this weekend too. So the
yeah. That
wind
doesn't help it. Yeah,
was
I
drying
guess
out the
that.
track so much. And but I have to say that this is probably one of the hardest layouts I've ever
Yeah,
seen. It
yeah.
was
Yeah, yeah. That's
very
true. Like
hard.
I'd say because I'm really not a huge fan of the track. I think it's okay to have tracks like this once in a while. I think Silver
Mhm.
State does it well, but the biggest difference about Silver State is that dirt that they use doesn't get to me. It doesn't look like it's getting very dusty. Really, it
It is
looks
though.
like it.
It is.
It is okay, but on live
It's
stream,
really bad in
it
there.
okay, but
But not
generally
like you say, because
it
I know what you mean. Like not that
yeah
like
it
where
gets
you
more like
yeah.
yeah it's more like loamy dust that you
Mhm.
get at Silver State, I feel like. And I think for low grip, really bumpy, I think that sort of works out. I think the issue here that I have with the track is it was quite high speed, uh the layout was super technical, so the jumps were really hard to make even when they were like brand new, which is good if the track stayed that way. But when the track
Right.
broke up, the jumps really, a lot of the points didn't really make sense anymore because the faces were so broken up. And then when it's hard packed and it's dusty, the grip level changes a lot when you go out of the line. So I think that
Right.
was the issue. That's the issue I had with the track. Now I understand like this is in the middle of the desert. I understand that like it's really hard to keep the water down. I would imagine you could keep it wet if you just like soaked it every night, like completely soaked it and like watered it really heavy. The moisture would stay in all the time. I don't really know. It could be that
It's
this is just so dry that
it
it
is.
dries out. But even in like the main, like it was dusty already in the warm up. So I don't. It's hard to say. I wasn't there, so I can't say. But if that's the case, a lot of the times what we do here is when the track just doesn't absorb moisture, is you use salt. So you just use salt water to water it, and like or let's say that before the race you water it heavily with salt water, and
Hmm.
then during the race you water it with normal water, and the moisture stays in much better. Obviously, this is not very good for the car. It kind of rusts up everything, but you can find salts that doesn't rust up the car as bad. And we have found some of those in Finland that we've used, and those are actually pretty good. You can easily run the uh, car there even if it's salted like the day before, and you get barely any rust. So you just need to find salts that don't rust up the car, and then you can use those. But I think if you can't really keep the track having moisture and you want to do a layout like this, you need to do something. You need to add salt or something to keep the moisture in, because either there's the other option is to change the layout so that it's
It's
much
it
more
when it
sort
gets
of,
blown out, it doesn't.
yeah,
Yeah, like kind of like what
because you
Joey
need.
does. And it
Yeah, well, Joey, yeah, like for Silver State, if you look at the layout this year, there was like one or two big doubles or triples, and the rest of it was rollers or tabletops or something.
mhm.
So when you have a layout like that, when it blows out, it doesn't really matter because the layout is really easy to start out with, and when it gets bumpy, it gets kind of hard. Like kind of hard,
Mhm.
it's okay still. But now the layout was really hard to start out with, and then when it get bumpy, it got like super difficult, and like the dust obviously doesn't help. So if you
You know
if
what they can do?
let's say this way, if they had moisture on this layout on this like bumpy conditions, it would have been much easier, and I think the racing would have been better, because now it was like gaps were huge, like crashes were the only thing that were sort
Well, a lot of
of
people didn't
dominant
finish either,
factor.
too.
Yeah, so that's
But
the
can I
issue when
add
traffic is
something?
blown out. Yeah,
At
for sure.
the up at LCRC in Pennsylvania for the Nationals, they actually use detergent mixed with the water to
Yeah,
keep the dust on and keep moisture in. So maybe, oh wow, they're doing like construction next door. Can you hear that?
yeah,
Oh wow,
I hope they don't keep that up. It's not awfully bad. It's probably okay.
yeah. Um. So anywho, and I was like, why are they doing that? But now I can see it did keep the dust on and did keep moisture in the
Yeah,
track, and it made
one.
it a word, but it also messed with traction. So I
Yeah,
guess
so
maybe
that's
they
the
can do
issue.
it.
Like
Yeah.
you need to find a salt that doesn't affect traction a lot, but it keeps affects the moisture a lot. So you
Hmm.
need to find a salt that doesn't rust the car, keeps the moisture down as much as possible, and doesn't make the track too grippy. So there are salts like that, and we've used salts like that in Finland. Uh, Only issue is even with salts like that, if you pack the dirt really heavily, it takes for ages to dry and it gets really polished. So I don't think Americans really pack their tracks. I think Anthony built this track. I'm not 100% sure. And so Anthony doesn't pack his track, so this wouldn't be an issue. But if you pack the track really hard with like with a bulldozer or what I don't know what you call it. Those what you do with asphalt. We use those in Europe. Um, a roller, I guess. Uh, if you pack the track with that and you drive on it with some moisture, it gets really polished and really slippery, and then the surface doesn't break up, and it's just really like really smooth, and it's almost like driving on some ice or something. So that's not great either. So that's something you need to keep in mind. But I think like I'd say if they wanted to keep if they knew like they couldn't keep the moisture down, they should have made the layout much more like simple, more rollers, more tabletops, less like technical jumps. Because in the end, when the track gets blown out, the track gets more technical. So I think that would have been the way to go.
I would actually agree there. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you
you
know
live and
what?
you learn. You know.
Well, I think there's room. We see so many high groom tracks and perfect tracks, and nobody wants to get cars dirty. I remember, "But my car would get so
Yeah,
dirty." I like seeing stuff. No, okay, what if
I'd say
obviously
I'd say like there's like limits to you can go to like
I agree. I agree
perfectly
with you there.
smooth tracks. I don't really enjoy like well, in America there hasn't been many of those this year, but in Europe a lot of times there has been those tracks where
Mhm.
there's zero bumps, zero imperfections, and the tracks are really easy. So it's basically just on road with one or two doubles on the track, which is not fun either. So and then there's the other extreme, which is probably this, where it's super dusty, it's relatively high grip on the line, and then it's super slippery out of the line, and then there's technical jumps and jump faces are all broken. So like there's a sort of sector in between those which you should feed the tracks in, and whatever you have in that sector I'm fine with, because there should be different type of tracks. I think there's a place for a race like Silver State, and I think there's a place for a race like PNB when I was there, when there were almost no bumps. And like yeah, there's a place for everything, but like if it's too extreme, it starts to be not fun anymore in my opinion.
I would agree with that, but I enjoyed it, and it brought
Yeah,
back memories of old school racing, which we need.
yeah,
And I think at the end of the day, wow, that noise is really loud. I'm gonna have to go talk to these guys. At the end of the day, it comes back to what we used to do back in the day and before your time. And even I would say that you guys still have tracks like this in Finland and stuff like that. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it I mean, it is what it is. It was, I think even if it didn't blow out, it would have been a hard layout. It definitely
Oh yeah,
favored
exactly.
the E
Yeah,
cars because they were, but I mean near the end you saw the Truggies were quadding that, they were quadding, and like Mayfield was doing all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's good
yeah.
stuff, man. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually I was at a birthday party for my daughter's 15th my neighbor's daughter's 15th birthday. So I'm watching half of I like when we got up, and I was watching the race on my phone, so I couldn't hear it, and I rewatched it the next day. But yeah, it was hard, man. It was hard. And
Yeah,
I talked to like Ryan Pavitas, and he was like, that was the hardest 60 minutes I've ever driven.
yeah. Also, like
Wow.
the main was 60 minutes. That makes it
Yeah.
even harder as well.
And
So,
you had semis,
and
so because it was IFMAR style, so you
yeah,
had
yeah.
semis and all that stuff. Uh
And like to just the one, I want to say one thing more is that the issue really isn't that like this type of track can be fun for the drivers, but it's really not fun for watching the race, in my opinion, because the issue is like even then like every single driver had a 5 second gap, and if someone got by someone else, it's like someone just crashed, and that's why they got by. It's okay, Tebow and Ogden had some battles, and there were some battles on track, but it's not like, because at DNC, for example, even though it gets rough, it gets bumpy, you can see when someone starts to catch up. They catch up a few tenths per lap, and at some point they catch up completely, and then they battle. Here, it's like you just wait for that other driver to make a mistake, then you catch them, and then you just wait for the other one to make a mistake, and who makes mistake first, like loses. So the racing is not that sort of like tactical. It's just like trying to stay on the line and like trying to get by the other guy without making any mistakes. And that's one thing I don't really enjoy when it's like this. Driving wise, I don't think this is. I wouldn't think this would be horrible to drive on. Really, it would be difficult and it wouldn't be like fun. But it's still a different. It's just a challenge in my opinion. But like viewer wise and like racing wise, if you think about the racing, I think this is not really good for that.
I actually 100% disagree with you, but I get your point.
Yeah,
I do. Hold on for a second. Yeah, like I said, Max, I understand your point. I don't necessarily agree with you. If you guys heard that noise, we actually try to wait till they stop actually cutting some barrels out there. So it's we're just gonna have to bear with it for a little bit. Yeah, I think there's room for everything in there. I just think I do agree. Maybe if they made the track a little less, I don't know. It usually gets blown out, but not so dusty. So I'm just assuming that the high winds had something to do with it, and just like I think the guys had to wear goggles because the wind was blowing the dust. It's like Silver State used to be, man. Silver State used to be the outdoor one used to be just like this.
Yeah, the old one.
So
even like the one that I think it was called Boulder or something.
Yeah,
like
it
the
was.
old Silver State.
Oh
That
man.
was the horrible one.
People forget about that. I remember Boulder had a whole back straightaway that was just a sand pit. Like it was literally a sand pit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the Ghani always tells me about that track.
but no, I just saw some comments like in the chat, like, "Oh, my cars are gonna get dirty and and the dust and this," and I'm like, you people aren't even racing there. Like, just enjoy it. Like, I think we've gotten so used to groomed, perfect tracks. And I like that too. I like it too.
I think he cuts the thing every time you speak. Like I think he's listening to the podcast somehow and cutting the barrel.
Is it that
just
loud?
to speak.
Is it coming through that loud?
It's not that bad. I can hear it in the background once in a while. I hope it's
so
not bad for the people listening. But yeah, let's move on to like what actually happened. So let's.
All right. Well, you know what? Before we go on
and
any further, Max, you know
okay.
what? We have to pay some bills, and I'd like to say thank you to Beach RC for their continued support of the podcast. And if you guys can, use our affiliate link.
BeachRC.com, the racer's one-stop online hobby shop. Choose from all the popular brands and variety in stock with super fast shipping and great customer service. BeachRC.com still has the local hobby shop feel with all the benefits of the internet. BeachRC.com is the exclusive distributor for Ultimate Racing, JQ Racing, Pro Circuit Racing Tires, Nitro Lux Fuels, and Assault RC Performance products. So fill up your cart and check out at BeachRC.com today.
Thank you to Beach RC, Lucas and Brent and all those guys doing awesome things in RC. They had their Dixie Nats here this past weekend, and they're getting ready for their Masters of Dirt Racing. Also, check out Lucas's videos he's been doing about his travels around the Southeast and taking the white whale to races. All right, guys, like I said, if you hear some noise in the background, they're actually cutting some barrels out the back there. We tried to wait for them, but he said he's not got much longer, and we got to get this done. All right, so part of this race is that they had, I believe, how Tim said, like, if you won all three of those classes, you could walk away with almost $5,000. I think that's how he said it worked out to be. But I think you got money for each position you went in. I don't know exactly how it did it, but not everybody raced all three classes. Like Mayfield didn't do all three classes. Rivkin didn't do all three classes. They just did E-buggy and Nitro Buggy. But Tebo went down there and he did all three classes. Tessman did all three classes. I believe Ogden did, and Spencer Heckett, I believe, did. But let's start with Truggy, because Truggy was pretty interesting. I believe Tebo was really fast in Truggy. Let's see who qualified first in Truggy. First off the bat. So let's go to. Oh man,
wasn't it Ogden?
It was Ogden. He had a stellar last qualifier and took TQ, I believe. So it was Cole Ogden, Jared Tebo, Ty Tessman, Spencer Heckert, and Westergaard. They were your top
Westergaard
5.
is actually pretty good with Truggy. So
yeah, that's where him and JQ need a
specialist.
battle. Yeah, that's where him and JQ need a battle. Tanner Denny made it to this race, part-time racer at Mugen. He came out, racing a lot early this year, and it kind of backed off because I think he's got a real job. So they went into there, and I believe in this main, I think it was 45 minutes or 30 minutes. Let's see Truggy main, her final results. They don't have times here. Okay, maybe I'm looking. Yeah, let me go to the race. I think it was 30 minutes, this race. So the Truggy race was 30 minutes. I believe Ty Tessman broke early in the race. I think he hit pit lane, I was told, and he broke his truck and he couldn't go on. I believe Tebo flamed while leading as well. Tebo had some flame out issues this weekend. I think he's getting used to the new fuel, that he had his new fuel out there. So, he's been on Maxima for so long. So he's just, getting his.
And I think
fuel.
is he still running Maxima engines?
Yes, he is
Okay.
for now. And yeah, but I think they got it figured out because he didn't have no issues in Nitro Buggy. I don't think he flamed. He didn't flame at all. But ended up, I think Spencer Heckert won this because it was a battle to the end, man. Like a lot of people dropped out of this race, and
Yeah.
in the end, Spencer Heckert won it, and a good win for S-Works and him. Spencer Heckert's been good. Spencer Heckert's been one of those racers this year. He's been in like the top 5 hunts, and he won. He actually won the.
He's always almost there, you know.
Yes, but Truggy seems to be his race where he seems to do really well in Truggy, and he won this race, and congratulations to him. But I do think there was some failures. So we had Spencer Heckert, Cole Ogden, Tanner Denny, Jared Tebo. Even with the flame out, he still came fourth. Then Westergaard. So yeah, and Ty Tessman, obviously he broke 9 minutes in. But you know, Ty looks like he was flying anyway. Actually, Tanner Denny had the fastest lap, a 31.7. No, actually, Jared Tebo, 31.6. But man, Tanner Denny, man, he's somebody that doesn't get enough accolades.
Yeah,
either.
I don't know, like I don't know if he has a good job or something, but I could see him going. Yeah, I could see him going full time in RC.
Yeah, but I don't think he'll
wish
be
he
under
would.
Mugen. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
no way he's getting that under Mugen. I think, yeah, that's the issue probably with a lot of these guys is someone like Tanner Denny. He's good enough to go like pro, but he's not good enough to go pro with a solid brand. He could probably try to work it out with like AE or what other, probably something like AE. That could be
Yeah,
a car that he could
but he'd
still
have to run 10
perform.
scale too. I think
Yeah, that's
he's
probably
just
true.
gonna
But
be.
yeah,
I think he's just gonna
that's
be one
true.
of those guys who do RC part time and realize, hey, I gotta work.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
But
And that's where
the
the
issue
money
really
is.
is like the brands with a good car. It's like there's not enough of them, and there's like not enough money that they generate that they could have more pros. So that's the biggest issue with a lot of guys like this. Same what happened to Sanketin. Like he was a top guy in Europe. He ran really well, and then he joined Techno. And yeah, with that car, he couldn't really perform in Europe. So he could go pro, but with the car he had, he couldn't really perform. So now he's not a pro anymore. But he's still
Right.
a talented driver, and he's still really fast. I think I think he's back with TLR now, but I'm not sure.
He is.
But
He
he's a
is.
prime example of like someone that could be a top pro, just like not making it out. And something like that almost happened to Barufalo as well. So he went
Mhm.
from TLR to RB, and then I think after that he landed a deal with X-Ray, which is perfect for him. X-Ray is a decent car, and he has a good deal with them. And I don't know if
Mhm.
he's pro per se, but at least he makes some money out of RC, and
That's what he
he
does
can
for
do
a
RC
living.
full time. Yeah. So like Barufalo is an example of he just barely made it out, and Sangatin got the worst end of it, where he signed with Techno, and the car really didn't perform in Europe, and he couldn't keep it up. So
I would agree with that. Good win for Spencer Heckert. I think I think Hooks even did Hooks did really well in E-buggy. I don't think he ran Truggy. All right, let's move on to E-buggy. E-buggy was just one main, 110-minute main. Ty Tessman won that. Jared Tebo and Ryan Mayfield, Spencer Rifkin in fourth, and Spencer Heckert in fifth. And hey, Hooks got a top 6. Well, he came in 6. Very good for Hooks. Anthony Westergaard, Jared Wiggins, the Wizard. Walker Spin Radical. This guy is the J Smoker, the 2021 version of J Smoker. He sends it. If it's a big jump out there, he sends it. But he's just like a local California racer, and he's been traveling a lot this year, and he's gotten so much better at racing.
is he like a young guy?
I would say it's 19. He just went 21. Well, probably went
Okay,
21 this year.
so I'd consider that a young guy still.
Yeah, he hangs out with Pavitas a lot, and they
Yeah.
practice a lot together. Steve Harris came in 10th. Steve Harris does well on these blown out tracks too.
Yeah,
with the
that seems
Agama.
to be his thing. Yeah.
So he made the trip down there. But yeah, Ty Tessman wins E-buggy. Man. So he moves on to that. He was Tebo. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Tebo in second, and one thing about Ryan Mayfield, dude, if he isn't in that number 1 spot, he don't smile for nothing, man.
Yeah.
Mayfield does not like to. None of these guys like to lose, but Mayfield hates losing, man. You see the podium pick, it's like you can see he's just pissed off. But I guess that's why his Mayfield, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why he dominates.
Yeah. All right. So the semis. Do we want to? All right. So congratulations. Now that all factors in. Remember that E-buggy goes towards the overall points here. So Tebow a second. All right. So do we want to go right to the? Do you want to talk about the semis? I didn't watch any of the semis. I was at the.
I
was at
didn't follow the
party.
semis, but it was like Cole had a bit tougher time in the top end though. Like Tessman, Rivkin, Mayfield, Tebow, they were probably where they should have been. So the semis not too crazy. Cole had some issues because he started 9th, but I don't know what happened.
You know what? I wish they would have had her. So in the semis, in the odd final, you had Spencer Rivkin, Tebow, Mayfield, Wiggins, Hooks. I wish they would have had an LCQ. I just think
LCQs you should always have awesome. An LCQ. Yeah,
always. And in the even final, you had Ty Tessman, Heckert, Jermaine Robinson had a good showing. He broke, I believe, in the main. Tanner Denny and Cole Ogden. Yeah, there we go. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So that's your semifinal. So I don't know how many they took over to each final. But yeah, let's go back to race results. So obviously, I think if you TQ this, you still have to race your semi. They don't, as well. So you still have to race in. All right. So let's look at the main final. Now, if you guys didn't see this was probably, I would say, one of the longest, hardest 1 hour racing a lot of these guys have done. And man, I will be honest, Ty Tessman just put on a clinic. Like, honestly,
he flamed, he was leading by
he flamed in the pits.
10 seconds. He flamed in the pits, and it wasn't like a fast flame where Gore just put the car back on. It was like he walked away from the pits to his starter box, and he took a little time to get the car fired up, and then he went again, and then he just catched Rivkin and went by a few laps later. So
he pretty much dominated from start to finish. The only time he was in second, that flame out happened. Well, he went in second a few times, and that flame out happened. Yeah, he just dominated. I'm just looking at her. It's like first, second.
When you look at the lap times, Rivkin and Tessman were actually really close in speed. So Rivkin was surprisingly fast considering he's almost all the time struggling in tracks like this. So his speed was really good, but Tessman's consistency was just so good. And I think that's a lot down to the way he sets up his car and the way he drives, because I always felt like Tessman doesn't push really hard, where it's let's say Mayfield or Ronefalk are drivers that all the time they go full speed, they drive their maximum the whole time. Where someone like Tessman sets up the car to have more speed naturally, but it's a little bit more difficult to drive. And then he just drives really careful and keeps the speed up. And on tracks like this, it really helps you because you can just do your laps and you don't have to push, and you can avoid the bumps and you have a little bit more time to react. And then vice versa, drivers like Mayfield have a lot more struggles on tracks like this, in my opinion, because of the fact that they try to go full speed the whole time. And you're obviously going to make slight mistakes when you do that. And on tracks like this, it's super easy to make those. So that's why I think this is sort of the strongest type of track for Tessman, even though earlier on the year, I said that his car is really not good over the bumps. But when it's this bumpy, it doesn't really matter anymore. You just try to get around the track. And that's why I think he was so good. And that's why he was dominating.
We constantly say, and he got on my case about this when he came on the podcast. We constantly say that Spencer Rivkin isn't good on these tracks, but that's not true. It's not true at all.
I explained
because he actually excels on these tracks.
Yeah, I explained this a few podcasts back because the one reason is the new car. The rear end has much better control. And another reason is the shock package they went to over the winter, the 5-hole pistons. It calms down the car a lot. So what they used to do beforehand, they used to run 6-hole pistons, or they used to run the MIP pistons, which work pretty good over bumps, but they don't really calm down the car. The 5-hole pistons calm down the car a lot. I'm not 100% sure if he ran it here, but he ran it at Silver State and DNC, and he finished pretty high up considering the situation. So yeah, the new car, the rear end is much more controllable. and the shock package setup they made for this year. That's the reason why AE has been a lot more, for at least for Spencer, a lot more comfortable on these super bumpy tracks.
Also, I noticed that Ty is using glasses now to drive.
Yeah, and
First time
I
I've
even
seen
saw
that.
him using like, yeah. I don't know if he uses glasses like all the time or if those are just like for racing, but yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it. Or I don't know if they look like actual prescription glasses.
Yeah.
So, Ty's got to be getting close to 30 now, I would say. And
No, he was
yes.
no, he was 15
But
in 2008.
so
So
yeah,
he's 28 now. So yeah, close to
yeah.
30, I guess.
So good. I mean, I'm all like glasses, man. Probably helps out a lot. I know, man. We gave Ty a lot of crap after DNC, but that's what we're supposed to do because we expect Ty to
Yeah.
always be in the top 3 at some point.
Yeah, and
think.
I mean, it's not acceptable for him to finish in the B main.
Oh, I
And
agree
like
with you.
even then, like I think he flamed out in the pits at DNC, and it happened again here. Like that's not acceptable. Imagine this was a Worlds. There's no way he wins the race if this is the Worlds. Like there's gonna be
Oh yeah.
Ongaro and Ronafog, and there's gonna be a lot of other fast guys. They're gonna be closer to you than like you can't like it's almost impossible to dominate Worlds like he dominated this race. So
Mhm.
like you gotta get away from things like that. Like flaming out in a pitch is unacceptable for anyone, really, especially on this
Yeah, but
caliber.
it happens though, and
It
but
happens, yeah, but it shouldn't. And that the thing is, like, if this was the first time this year, like, okay, whatever. But he's had issues with this earlier on,
mhm.
and that's gotta be an issue for him. And
Oh,
yeah, I think like the difference between like because I remember DNC he struggled and he won PNB and I think there were clear like reasons why that happened, and there's also to me at least I can see Tessman winning this race most of the time, even before like watching any of these like lap times or whatever, just by looking at the track and knowing how he drives and sets up his car. So I think this race doesn't prove much yet, but it's definitely a good move in the right direction. I think we need to wait for races like DNC again, because
mhm.
that's the type of track he really, to me at least, he really struggles on with this car because he drives a really soft car, and when you're going high speed, you carrying corner speed, you drive a soft car, and you have small ruts and bumps. That's when it gets hard, and that's what happened at DNC for him. So like I don't know if he
Well,
has
also
fixed
remember
that
DNC is
yet.
going to be at a different track next year too. It's going to be back at
Yeah, but the answer is
Paris,
always
different
similar, and
soil.
I think he struggled even at Paris. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he didn't have a very good time at Paris either. So hard to
Yeah,
say,
I,
but
I, I just think great bounce back. I mean, he's the only other multi-time. When I say big, I mean to have Ryan Mayfield's her, Rifkin, like the only competition that ain't her is probably guys like Tyler Jones and stuff like that. But to be honest, like
yeah,
no disrespect to those guys, they're not always making like Tyler Jones can make top 3 and can win, but
yeah,
they're not. You know what I mean?
yeah.
They're still
But I
of
mean,
course a threat,
yeah,
but
I mean,
you
Ty
know,
still had a good nationals. He was
yeah,
fastest after the semis,
I
but he
think
just got DQ'd. So
I
it's not
honestly
like
feel
Ty's
that
been
Ty Tessman
struggling
was.
this year.
Yep.
Yeah, but he just has like his race program doesn't seem like it's together, you know. It seems like there's some like spots where he has his weaknesses, and definitely that flame out in the pits is one. And I would say tires are no longer an issue because on track like this, it's dry, like track like nationals, dry tracks, which is hard packed. The hot race tires are actually really good. So it's not like he has a tire disadvantage. I don't know. Well, he won PNV, so PNV definitely I don't think had a disadvantage with tires. But the one thing I don't know is DNC. Obviously, Cole did well, but Cole always does well at Thunder Alley,
Mhm.
so that's something we don't really know. I don't know like that sort of track that has moisture and bumps and it's not too hard packed. If that's good for hot race, I don't say it's bad, but I'd say here in the nationals, the hot race tires probably could have been even better than Proline and J Concepts.
Well, I believe that had had Ty made the main final at the Nationals, I truly believe, no offense to I like Cole, you know, if them two would have been in the finals, I definitely think out of those two, Ty was probably the one guy that would have beat Mayfield.
Oh yeah,
you know?
for sure,
And
for sure. Like Cole, the issue with Cole is still that he makes too much mistakes. Like, and it's not like he makes them under pressure or he makes them like at certain points. It's just like he just makes mistakes, and that's sort of a natural fact. It seems like
yeah,
he can obviously get away from that, but it's hard to say why that happens. I don't really know, but that's his downfall, really, to me. And he hasn't yet proven that he can get away from that. So that's why I would agree.
I would
with
agree.
that.
He did the same thing here. You know, he came in fourth.
Yeah.
So
like these are the races where Cole should finish second. You know.
yeah, I
Like,
would agree with
I
you.
would
We
I
say
would
that
be
all the
fine.
time.
Yeah, but like DNC, the second place finish was really good for Cole. But
Yeah.
like he should have finished second here as well. Like because Mayfield
He
playing
could win
out.
this. He could
Uh,
win this.
Yeah, he could, but I'd be fine with second. Like if he
Yeah.
finished second, I'd be like, this was a good race for Cole. But when he finishes fourth, it's like I don't think that's really acceptable to me.
Yeah,
at
I
least.
would agree with you. He would want to win this race, and
Yeah.
yeah, I would agree with you because
Yeah,
I
and
know how fast
with the
Cole can
speed,
go.
yeah, with the speed he should have, and a lot of times has, he should be finishing higher up on these races. And this race, his speed didn't look too good. I watched some of the lap times. It was like Tessman and Rivkin were very much like on level with speed, but the Tessman was just so much more consistent. Then there was a slight drop to Tebo, and then a slight drop to Ogden. But I don't know. Well, Mayfield, obviously, he didn't have too many laps. He broke, I think, like just after the first tank or something. So we don't really have enough laps from him to look at it. He looked okay in the start, but
I just think Mayfield didn't
Yeah.
look comfortable the entire weekend.
yeah,
There.
I think like me, since the 8-scale nationals win, to me it has just looked like he's not that into it anymore. You know, like the year
Well, yeah,
for
it's
him.
probably
To me, it looks like for him the year is over, and he just goes to these races to have fun and just to go to them. Like, okay, he was battling for the win at Southern Nats, and he was
Mhm.
high up there. But like even like the mistakes he made, those were the mistakes that you make under pressure. Those are the mistakes you make when you're pissed off or you don't really care. And he
yeah,
wouldn't
like
make
mistakes
those
he hasn't
mistakes
made
at
all
DNC.
year, pretty
Yeah, so
much.
to me it looks like it's not like that, like his head is not that into it anymore, and it's not like he's frustrated or anything. I don't feel. I think it's just that he's focused on other stuff at the moment.
Next
I
year.
don't know, but
That too.
yeah,
I think it's
next year,
focused on next year.
yeah, but right now he's focused on like family and having
Mhm.
a good life, and like he's focused on DNC next year. That's like his next race. I think
Yeah,
that's just my like what I think, what it looks like. I don't obviously know what's going on, but that's my guess.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna tell you when that second kid comes, like I experienced, life changes immensely. You know, you
Yeah.
have one, and you're like, oh, okay, this is manageable. And that second
Yeah.
one comes, you're like, oh, okay. But unfortunately, both Mugen's out, Tanner Denny and him. I don't know what happened to him. I haven't read his race report. I have not heard what happened to him. So they were
Yeah.
out early. But to be honest, like looking at his lap times, he was in second for, like you said, he was for third. He got in second for a few, but
He looked fast in the start, but like the way he drove, it just didn't look like he really cared. It's weird.
I think it's just like I'm the champion. I'm the NNRC Cup champion now. I don't have to worry about anything else. You know,
exactly NNRC Cup champion.
I'm the NNRC Cup champ. Then I won. Then I won the nationals. You know what I mean? So like I don't have anything else to prove for the rest of the year.
And I mean,
But
I
he-
could
he-
be wrong. It just could be like he
Yeah,
just
just in
didn't
a
have
funk.
the day or whatever. I don't know. But at least
Well-
the last 2 races he's done and the 10-scale nationals, like this is not the Mayfield we're used to. It looks like
Oh,
a
I agree.
little bit different guy. So
I agree.
that's my
Uh,
analysis.
All right. You know what? We're gonna talk about a techno driver. So I gotta pay some bills. Sorry, gotta pay some bills, Max.
Techno RC. Techno RC. Techno RC is a premium manufacturer specializing in 8th and 10th scale high performance off road RC buggies and trucks. Visit www.technorc.com for a complete catalog of their products. Techno RC. Excellence in engineering. Hashtag Techno Takeover.
Yes, thank you to Techno RC for their continued support of the podcast. Now, Jared Tebo made the trip on her. And for all of you that think that RC is the glamour life, I was gonna do a live and have him on her, but I'm actually busy this week myself. But I talked to him briefly, and it's like, yeah, dude, I stayed at the track till 10:30, and then I drove in my van to 6, and then I slept till this time. Like I slept in my van and somewhere, and then I drove the rest of the way home. I'm so tired. And I was reading like he camped out. He stayed in this guy, a Will Walker, nice guy. I met him at DNC, and he stayed in his camper. Like Tebow went on, like this wasn't glamorous. Tebow went on and roughed it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like
but I think
like
that's
privateer
cool. That's how
motocross
it should
days.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so no fancy hotels and all that stuff for Tebow, no flights. But he went on there, and to be honest, if there's one person besides Tessman that shine on tracks like this, it is Jared Tebo.
Exactly.
He is. I had him picked to win. I like I said, did have some flame out issues. Like I said, they're trying out the new fuel, I believe, but he bounced back from that. And I just, I just think like he was 20 seconds behind Tessman. And honestly, let me see, did he ever get enough? No, he never got in a position to be in first at all. But he did, I just think I think I told him, I said, maybe you didn't get the win that you wanted, but I think you can hold your head up high coming out of this race because it was very hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
And
like races like this, oftentimes it's not like it's a little bit of a coin toss every time when it gets this rough and stuff like that. But yeah, Tebow definitely, like, this was like a fighting second place. So all
Mhm.
credit to him. It was a good. I'd be happy with second the way
Yeah.
Tebow did it. So yeah, that was definitely, and the fact that he battled with Rivkin and Ogden. So he was probably the only guy who battled with other people.
Yeah.
So he did a good job, and the way he drove, and it looked fun. It looked like he was having fun out there. So
Yeah, and to be fair, like the other technos, and there were Hooks and Wiggins, and Wiggins had a very off weekend. He didn't finish the race. Actually, Hooks didn't finish either, which is I mean, this was a brutal race. Like there was a lot of
Yeah.
DNFs. You know what I mean? But kudos to Jared. I think that I think this is one of the tracks that the technos do well on, type of track.
Yeah.
And I think he was excited to go there. But I want people to know he said I enjoyed it. It was fun. Because I think even for him, it's very relaxed, and he can relax, and because it's such a honestly, like the environment down there, the ambience is really good. That's what I like about it, and it shows. Like, and he won the overall, so he actually is the actual U.S. Open champion for 2021. So he probably won some money too. Maybe next week we'll get him on to do a live, and he can talk about it. But congratulations, Jared Tebo, for winning the overall. Then, of course, we had Rivkin, which we did touch on. Yeah, Rivkin was the only other guy to get in first for some point, in
and
this race.
in terms of speed, he was really looking good. Just slightly too many mistakes to sort of fight with Tessman. But yeah, he looked good out there, and yeah, definitely. I mean, he probably should have finished second considering the speed he had. But yeah,
Do you think?
he'd be fine going home with
Do
the.
you know that? Do you know how like people primarily considered Spencer a primarily 10 scale dominant driver?
I think
he's
that's now
yeah
gone.
yeah.
No
I think
longer that.
I think he's fully embraced the glory, and
Yeah.
he's showing that he's still he's just an all round racer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
He's a driver like Mayfield, like,
yes,
at this
and
point.
I actually think that he'll be a 10 scale world champion. Well, he is a 10 scale world champion. Sorry.
Yeah, 2 times.
He'll be a 4-wheel drive 2-time. He'll win the 4-wheel drive, and I don't think
a 2-wheel drive, but yeah.
I think he can win an 8 scale world championship too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'd still. The biggest issue he has, in my opinion, is that he struggles a lot, like early on in the race, in like qualies and stuff.
Mhm.
So he doesn't have that, like, let's say Tessman, he's like,
Confidence.
when practice is done, he goes to quali and he just, like, every run he does the good runs, and he has that, like, he has his lines, he has his consistency, and he just does that. And when he's on it, and no one can touch him. When he's not on it, he's still second or third, and then in the main, if something happens, he's fighting for the win. So
Mm.
Rivkin is sort of the guy who sometimes he has good qualifiers, sometimes just really poor qualifiers. DNC, he bumped from the B and finished third or fourth. I'd say, yeah, fourth. And he finished second or third at Southern Nats. So he has a lot of podiums this year. It's just that I think, like, Spencer never gets that sort of qualifying to give him the confidence. And I think that's what he needs to really work on, because it really helps. It, like, if you TQ, it doesn't really matter, but it still helps you. And you have the confidence. And the fact, if you TQ like every round, like Tessman often does,
Mm-hmm.
it helps you. Like, okay, Mayfield kind of is doing the same thing this year, but where he's not qualified very high, and then in the main he just dominates.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they try, like, to do the Robert Battier thing, but to me, like, Robert Battier still finishes top 3 or top 4 after qualifying. He doesn't qualify 16th, you know.
Well, not at
So
Buggy Land. He was in the B main.
yeah, but he had some issues. Like, he broke
Right.
in one qualifier, I think. So he,
But I
it
get
was
what you mean.
more than that. Yeah, but, like,
Well,
even like every Euros that Robert has won, apart from well, not Euros that he's won. Let's put it this way: every Euros that Robert has battled for the win, he's always in the top 3 in quali, and in the main he surprises with his like pull back from the back of the pack or
right.
something. And it's like, I can see the tactic that setting up the car for the main. That's a good tactic, and that certainly worked for Robert and worked for Mayfield.
Mhm.
But even when Mayfield has bad qualifiers, he finishes 5th, 6th at the worst. And that's where Spencer needs to get to, where no matter what happens, he's still in, like, the, let's say, top 5, top 6. And that's been, to me, if I was him, that would be, I'd see that as an issue, because you have to always worry, like, I need to get a good run in so I can get into
Well,
the semis
I
or to
was
the
about
A
to
and
say that
stuff like that.
after, because they were pitting behind us at the Nationals. And yeah, I would say it affects him. And
Yeah.
I think it's just something that he needs to mentally get focused on.
Mhm.
And I get it, because these guys, every little thing, it's a mental game too. You know what I mean? So they
Yeah.
want to be on top of everything.
Yeah.
When you're on
This
top
is
of
exactly
everything,
a mental game. Yeah.
right? And then once it isn't, that's when, and then he mentally, I could hear it. He can mentally screw himself, and then he goes out in the track and fixes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you
yeah.
go into the race just focus a little bit more. Don't worry about. You don't need to be TQ. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You just need
but
to be in the top
you
5.
just be, yeah, and you need to be like I think what Mayfield does, kind of hard to say about him because he blows out a lot in qualifying as well. But
Mhm.
I think what Mayfield does is, even when he doesn't have the best qualifying, he isn't, like, worried about it. He knows what he needs to do, and he finds the thing he needs to do, and then he's ready for the main. Spencer, to me, it looks like he's super lost in qualifying, and then it goes even worse. And then he's like, okay, now we got the main, so we got to figure something out. And then he figures it out then. But to me, like, you need to, because you need to have it together before the mains.
I agree
And
with
that
you.
way you get, like, the calmness of the mind, and you
I
know what
agree.
you're doing. You execute your race program and you do well. I think to fight for a world championship, you really need that. And
Mhm.
with him, I don't think he has that yet. He's a fast
Maybe not
enough
an
guy
8
to do
scale.
it.
Not an 8
Yeah,
scale
yeah. I
yet.
mean,
Maybe he
yeah,
has it in
obviously
10
10.
scale.
Yeah, obviously he has it in 10 scale. Yeah, that's no doubt. He has done it twice. But in 8 scale, like, you need much more trust with your race program. You're
Mhm.
gonna be out there for 45 minutes. You can't make any mistakes, and you have to be fast. So you need to trust what you're doing, and you need to do it really well. You need to know how you've done it before and keep doing it every time after time. And that's what I see him struggling on. Let's say the next world that's gonna happen.
Yes.
But he has the speed and he has the talent to do it, and he has this. He knows how to run a longer main. So if he just gets that sort of mental block out of the way, the mental block I think he has out of the way, I think he has a chance to win the worlds.
Oh, I agree with you.
But yeah,
I agree
yeah,
with you.
that's probably one of the things. Like, Ronnefolk and Tessman and Robert Batty and these guys who have already won the Worlds, these guys don't really, I don't think they've ever really had that. Like Ronnefolk, if he's strong, he's strong. He's good in qualifying, he's good in the main. So, and Tessman is the same thing. If he's strong, he's strong. And there's no like up or down with it. And Robert is like, you can see when he's strong. And if he's close in qualifying, he knows in his head he's gonna be one of the fastest guys in the main. So that's like, even though he isn't high up there in quali, he knows that he's gonna be there in the main. But that's where Spencer needs to get at, I think.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And he'll get there. It's just it's just that getting that last little bit of confidence in 8 scale. And he's got 2 national wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you look at
the thing is both those national wins is like that track is something that suits him perfectly. He feels comfortable with it, and that's why he does well. Now what he needs to do is spread that sort of spectrum of confidence to other situations and other scenarios, and then he can do that every time.
I 100% agree with you there. All right, we touched on Cole Ogden again. This is a race that I think Cole should win this race. He can win this race. He's been to this race before, but you know, the beast from the East. I like Cole. I love the fire that he brings. I like his character. You know, I love it. Man, his mullet, man, Jesus, he's looking like Jesus out there. His hair's way down there. He's got the beard good, and he got, you know, I like him, and this is what we need. I mean, he brings excitement to RC, and I like that, and he's embraced that character. They call him the people's champ and all that stuff. I love it. I just want him to. I want him to do well. I want him to win. And he can. And it's funny because I talked to David, and David has the ultimate confidence in him as well. You know what I mean? Ronnefolk is like, Cole's good. You know, I said, I know he's good. I think we'll see. When Adrian and David come over next year, I think that's when, because I know it's got to be hard for him to always, because he's like the top HB guy, and then there's, you know, he's got to kind of do that HB role, that, you know, that team manager role kind of to an extent, and it's got to be hard not to have somebody else to go to, like right there. So it's really, Cole's at his best, at his really, really best, is when he's got Adrian and David there to bounce ideas off.
For sure. And in Cole's case, I don't really know why this happens, like why he can't just get that win in there. It's weird because like with some other drivers, it's very like clear that they make the same mistake every time and something similar happens every time. But with Cole, it's like he can be fast and still screw up. He can be slow and still be fast in the main and then screw up. So it's like, it's really hard to say what's happening with him, that he's not really winning these races, because he has the speed a lot of times these days. And it's weird because like the RCGP, when things started to go wrong for him, they went like really wrong.
Yeah.
So, but it's not always the case in these races. Like he might have a good day and then just something happens and it doesn't work out in the main. So hard to say what the actual reason is. He probably knows it himself. So that's something like he needs to work on to win these races. That's my take on it.
I Beast from the East, man. I love him. Hey, it was if you could have seen him after the Nationals, it was so funny. Oh my gosh. But see, that's what we need in RC. We need guys out there expressing themselves and saying what's going on. And I just want him to win. Spencer Heckert, a solid performance, 5th. I don't think he can complain about this. Spencer Heckert, a quiet year for him. He comes out there for a win in Truggy, a 5th in Nitro Buggy, the main S-Works guy in America. It's going to be interesting to see what S-Works does in 2022. I'm hearing some rumors, but I'm sure he's going to stay there. And Spencer Heckert will be a good racer. He's a good racer, and he's young, and he'll be competing with these guys. He is competing with them, but what I mean is he'll be challenging these guys more in the coming years. Yeah. So kudos to him. Ryan Pavitas made the trip here. Bit off pace compared to the other guys, but he's putting in the work to get better. He's like approaching RC good. Like in that attitude, is fully immersed in RC. And then we have Little Bear Steve Harris made the trip down. Steve Harris has had a decent year this year. He just missed out making the nets. He's made some finals. He has just missed making some finals,
Yeah,
and
he's just at
he's
that level where he
yeah.
is like sort of bottom of the main or just dropped out of the main. So for him,
Yeah.
that's like the worst place to be in.
It's so hard to
Because like
make improvements at
it's
that
hard.
level
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
You know,
So yeah, Ryan has sort of got away with that point. So now he's making mains almost every race. So
mhm,
Ryan has like just stepped over that level.
yeah.
So yeah, Steve is just still on that very annoying, almost
I
there
hope he
level.
continues. And then again, he was the only Agama car there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's
that's
another thing.
that's also a very big deficit for him, in my opinion.
I hope he continues because he has. I think people just don't understand the increments of if you know. Obviously, there's talented people, and then there's talented
Mhm.
people that work hard, and then there's some people that aren't as talented but they work hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And the like to go like the level increments of some people go by leaps and bounds and some people just an inch at a time, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And you just have to crawl, you have to grind that out. Vestergaard in eighth. Yeah, I mean it's a good eighth for Vestergaard. Hooks had a good weekend, retire. Wiggins kind of has had not the best second half of the year. He started out with a good
yeah.
first half and then kind of.
Wiggins is a bit weird because like in previous years, to me, he has been sort of a guy who is not that like let's say Ryan Pavidis or Steve Harris. Those guys have been very sort of how would you say, you recognize those guys, they are somewhere there. Wiggins has sort of, for me at least, been sort of in the shadows a bit. This year he has changed that a lot. He's been much more
Mhm.
sort of prominent, but now second part of the year he sort of went back to that where he's there but like not seen really.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe he just moved to Texas, all that type of stuff, big changes in life. So
Yeah,
he moved to Texas to do more RC. But the Wizard, man, he's still good. He's just it just happens. Like, sometimes
mhm,
races just don't go how you want them to go. That's RC.
yeah,
Good to see young Jermaine Robinson doing more racing. I believe they live in Texas now. I like Jermaine. I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be a very good talent. His dad and his family put a lot of work into him, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to see Ryan Mayfield and Tanner Dent. Man, I just have to say, Tanner Denny is very impressive too. I have to give him more credit
yeah,
because
yeah,
for a part-time racer who probably had a good first half and then the second half of his year he hasn't raced as much. He's really good. Like, you know what I mean? He is
yeah,
really a
yeah.
good 8 scale racer,
but
and I
but
would
he
like to see him do this for a living.
Yeah, the thing though is like for some people it's almost better to do it part-time than full-time. I don't know if Danny is one of those, but he could be because some people like
Neil Craig,
when they put yeah, Craig is one of those guys who like I think he would have not done much better if he did it full-time.
right?
Like
I
I
get that.
would say that like because some people are like when you start doing something too much, you start to overthink and you start to do stuff that really doesn't help you, and you kind of shoot yourself in the leg in a sense. Not
I
everyone
agree.
is that way. I'm not saying Neil is that way, but for some people, it just works better when you have a normal life and then you have your RC life,
It's
and you
still
just get
fun.
you clear your head. It stays fun, and you really enjoy it, and you put everything you have into those times that you do RC. And Danny could be one of those guys, and that's why because to me it looks like he's been getting better all the time when he moved away from doing RC a lot. So yeah, he could be one
Maybe,
of those guys, but hard to say.
maybe, but yeah. All in all, I'm happy. I'm happy we got to see this race. After a
Yeah.
disappointing Buggy where we couldn't really see it, and then we really couldn't recap it. I
Yeah,
geeked out on
but
it. Like,
obviously,
obviously,
with Boggyland there was the weather issues and all that,
that
which made it
too,
more
that as
difficult. But,
well, that as
but yeah,
well.
I can totally agree with that.
I'm super happy for the Showers family because I know that this is a big race for them, and like they honestly do this out of the kindness of their heart. Like
Mhm.
like they're just a great, like, I love, like they're just really nice people. Like, and like Tim Lime says this. He says this is a party where a race breaks out, And
Yeah.
and that's fine. I'm happy with that. We know that's probably why this gets the
And
people
that
there.
this is what I feel about like the BT contest in Europe was exactly like that. Everyone's having fun, it's a good time, and then you go out there and race. And it's still a competitive race, but the atmosphere is just so great.
Yeah.
That like BT contest, they did it the best I've seen at any race. It's just like it's so fun to be out there, you know.
It looks fun. Looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for them, man. I really am. And we need races like this. It's near the end of the year and stuff like that. So yeah. So real quick, let's look at the future. We have a couple races coming up. It's Blue Ridge Nationals, but I don't think much of these guys are gonna go there. Blue Ridge is more like a local Southeast big race for them. Really, it's still a good race, but just doesn't have this talent pool. That's Halloween. And then we have AMS, which is the grand finale of the year. And we're going to see all these guys race again. And that's what I can't wait for. But I wanted to touch on something, Max, real quick before we get out of here. This has been, besides the fact that we didn't have the Euros come and there wasn't much Euro racing, this has probably been one of the best, most exciting seasons of 8-scale racing we have had in a long time. We've had drama. We've had, like, just imagine if this was an actual series. I know, like, Live RC is trying to do a point series with all their races and stuff like that. We did the NNRC Cup.
Yeah.
But we actually had a series here, but it isn't a series. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if this was a series and we had points in her, like, the penultimate, like, this would be the penultimate is the one before, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this is the penultimate, whatever. This is the penultimate race before the
You're
final.
the guy whose first language is English.
I know. But, like, just imagine if this was a series and it came down to AMS her at the end of the year, just how exciting this would be. So, I mean, we've had a series of racing here because most of these guys met each other. I mean, obviously, like Tessman missed a few races and Mayfield. But in general, they have raced at every race this year. And this is the closest we have come to actually having a freaking series in RC. And for me, I'll be honest with you, it's been a totally exciting year. The only thing missing was the Euro side.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you bring up a good point here. Like, this year, thanks to COVID, has made a lot more pros and like almost pros to attend more races. Like, almost everyone went to almost all the races because they had a sort of a gap year here. So now this year has been like full on for everyone. And I think that just brought out like the fact that RC is actually really cool, and especially 8-scale. Like, it's really cool and it's really nice to follow. And if we just like imagine like if all of this was done, but with like all eggs put into one basket, people work together, and like everything's planned out beforehand, like this is actually something that's really cool to see. And I don't think this has happened this well beforehand. So it shows a lot of promise for years to come, really.
Yeah, I agree. Just imagine if this was like a World Series or just a series or American series and how cool it could be. All right. I think that wraps it up. I just have a few more bills to pay. Thank you guys to High Tech RC. High Tech RCD is a leader in RC systems, delivering the highest performance and reliability, supported by a dedicated customer service personnel. They have some awesome service with efficient brushless motors, titanium gears, low consumption and constant output, and they regenerate power back into your battery. The RDX2 Pro Charger, which I have in the back there, I'm putting it through its paces. I'm really enjoying it. It has a Bluetooth dongle. You can follow everything from your phone. It has a USB to charge your engine head, charge your phone. Really good piece of equipment. Trust in High Tech, your servo and charger headquarters. You can find their link in our written description or go to hightechrcd.com. Where to buy to find your nearest retailer. Also, shout out to, TNR Fuels, because Nitro is the glory here at the NNRC, and what is a 8-scale fuel nitro podcast with Auto Fuel sponsor. And TNR Fuels is the hottest nitro fuel in the market, owned and operated by Chris Nelson and his family, made by racers for racers. TNR Fuels is currently available throughout the USA and is working on international distribution. For more information to get TNR Fuels at your shop or in your possession, contact them at www.tnrfuels.com or contact Chris Nelson directly at chris@tnrfuels.com or find them on House of RC or Facebook. Max, thank you for your time. And I got to say thank you to all the other sponsors. They are Mayako, obviously, SCRC, Techno RC, Beach RC, Lugs, JQ Racing, Donathan RC, Racecraft, JQ Threads, Papa Willie's, RCGP, House of RC. Remember, everybody showing the sponsor some love, shows the podcast some love. Thank you to all you guys that tune in and listen to us. We greatly appreciate it, man. Honestly, to me, when I get messages from people saying how much more they're into RC now because they've been listening to us and all that stuff, Max. That's one of the messages I got this week. Like, he goes, Keenan, you don't know, I'm into RC for 20 something years all my life. And you guys in the podcast have rejuvenated my, like, getting into it. Like, you know what I mean? Like what we're talking about. And that's what this podcast was meant to do. And that's the biggest compliment that I feel that for me, that, and us, like what we're doing.
Yeah.
So,
and now, like, we're bringing the community together with the Discord. So,
yes,
like,
don't forget the Discord.
In there. Yeah, find new friends, have fun with the new friends you find, and let's bring the RC community closer to each other.
All right. Arrogant Max, you have a good weekend. Have a good time at your party. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the patrons of the NNRC. We can't do it without you guys. Thank you with the NNRC Squad. Join that Discord chat because we're in there. You know what, Max? Nitro is the glory. E-buggy pays the bills. Max and Lefty are out.
Thank you for listening to the No Name RC podcast. We greatly appreciate all the support and love from you, the listeners. Without all of you, none of this is possible. Special thanks to our patrons on Patreon. If you wish to support the podcast further, you can at patreon.com/NNRC podcast. As a patron, you will receive early releases, special content, and patron-only giveaways. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, www.nnrcpodcast.com. Remember, Nitro is the glory, but E-buggy pays the bills. If you aren't having fun, it doesn't make sense. And if you ain't grinding, you're sliding. Lefty out. Nitro is the glory. Nitro is the glory. Nitro is the glory.
That wasn't so bad.